everyone, listen to me carefully. Most people fail in life not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack the discipline to force themselves to do what needs to be done, especially when they don't feel like it. Let me tell you something critical. Feelings are not permission. Your emotions are not your boss. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll be waiting the rest of your life. Success never consults your mood before it shows up. You don't need motivation, you need conviction. Purpose is stronger than passion. Passion can fade, but purpose will keep you moving when nothing around you makes sense. Discipline is doing what you hate like you love it. Because the truth is, you will never rise to the level of your goals, you will fall to the level of your habits. Every great destiny demands that you confront your laziness, your excuses, your comfort zone, and crush them under the weight of responsibility. There's a difference between desire and decision. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to reach their potential, but few are willing to pay the price daily. You cannot conquer what you refuse to confront. You cannot have the fruit without planting the seed, plowing the ground, and fighting off the weeds. You must force yourself to get up early. Force yourself to write the plan. Force yourself to study when your body wants sleep. Force yourself to speak when fear wants you silent. Because success doesn't come to the most gifted. It comes to the most disciplined. Discipline overrides emotion. That may sound simple, but it is one of the most powerful principles you will ever live by. Emotion is unpredictable. It shifts with the weather, changes with the season, and fluctuates based on circumstances. But discipline, it is stable, it is consistent, and it is the master key to unlocking any assignment, any vision, and any destiny God has placed in your life. Let me ask you something. How many things have you started and never finished? Not because you weren't capable, but because you didn't feel like continuing. How many dreams have died in the graveyard of procrastination because the emotion to begin was never followed by the discipline to endure? We've been taught to follow our hearts, to listen to our feelings. But what do you do when your feelings are lying to you? The Bible says in Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? You don't build a successful life by following what is deceitful. You build it by following principle. And principle demands that you put your emotions in their rightful place, under authority. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane is a powerful example. He said, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. That was his emotion speaking. But he followed it with, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. That was discipline. That was the will submitting to purpose. He didn't feel like going to the cross, but he forced himself to obey for the sake of purpose. If the Son of God had to override his emotions to fulfill his assignment, how much more do we? You cannot serve both your feelings and your future. One will always betray the other. There are mornings you will wake up and not feel like pursuing your goals. There are days when the passion will run dry. And in those moments, the question is not what you feel. The question is what you've decided. Discipline is the bridge between your decision and your destiny. Think about a farmer. He doesn't sow seed because he feels excited every morning. He sows because he knows the harvest is coming. The work is hard, the sun is hot, the ground is stubborn, but he wakes up early, tills the soil, plants the seed, and waters it daily. Not because he's emotional, but because he's disciplined. What is the soil in your life you're refusing to dig into? because you're waiting for a feeling that may never come. Your purpose doesn't adjust itself to your mood. Your calling is not on pause until you're motivated. There are some doors that only open to consistent knocking. Some victories only respond to persistence, and some breakthroughs will never come until you force yourself to move forward. When every part of you wants to sit still. You are not a slave to how you feel. You are a steward of what you've been given. And stewardship requires structure. God is a God of order, not chaos. He expects you to rule your soul, not be ruled by it. The book of Proverbs says, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. In other words, without discipline, your life is defenseless. So the next time your emotions try to negotiate with your destiny, remind yourself, discipline is your weapon. It is how you silence excuses. It is how you crush laziness. It is how you declare to the world and to yourself, I will not be led by how I feel. I will be led by what I know. Because discipline will do what emotion promises but never delivers. Purpose fuels consistency. When you understand why you're doing something, the strength to keep doing it, even when it's hard, becomes supernatural. The reason most people quit is not because the task is too great, but because the purpose behind it is too small in their minds. You were not created to live from task to task. You were designed to live from purpose to purpose. Let me ask you this. Why do you do what you do? Why do you get up in the morning? Why are you trying to be successful? If your answer is money, applause, or position, then you'll break under pressure. Because when the applause fades and the doors close and no one's watching, what will keep you going? Purpose is the fuel that burns quietly inside you when all the excitement is gone. The Bible says in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose, not according to convenience, not according to emotion, but according to purpose. That means even your pain, your delay, your struggle is working because of purpose. But if you don't know what your purpose is, you'll misinterpret every challenge as punishment instead of process. Purpose gives meaning to process. That's why Joseph could endure betrayal, prison, and delay. He said to his brothers in Genesis 50:20, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good to bring about this present result. What sustained him wasn't a dream. It was the understanding that the dream had divine purpose. Without that, he could have crumbled in the pit, but purpose made him consistent, even in pain. If a person doesn't know their purpose, they become a slave to their environment. They drift. They chase trends. They quit easily. Why? Because there's no why behind their work. But when your life is rooted in purpose, storms don't shake you. They sharpen you. You don't need someone to motivate you. You become your own motivation. Think of an Olympic athlete. They train for 4 years for a moment that lasts a few seconds. They wake up early, eat the same meals, go through pain, and deny themselves pleasure. Why? Because of purpose. The goal, the vision, the assignment fuels their consistency. It doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's cold, if they're tired. The why is always bigger than the what. Now ask yourself, is your purpose clear enough to keep you consistent? Even Jesus said, for this cause I was born, and for this cause I came into the world. That's purpose. That's focus. And that's the reason he never got distracted by popularity or persecution. He was anchored. If you're inconsistent, it may not be a discipline issue, it might be a purpose issue. Because when purpose is clear, decision becomes easy. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop negotiating with excuses. You start measuring every opportunity against your assignment. Purpose is not something you invent. It's something you discover. You were born with it. It was encoded in you before you were even formed. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you and I ordained you." That means your existence is not accidental. Your purpose is eternal. And once you tap into that, quitting is no longer an option. So the next time you feel like giving up, ask yourself, what am I really doing this for? Because when the purpose is powerful, the pressure becomes manageable. When the reason is rooted in something eternal, the result will follow. And even when they don't come immediately, purpose will give you the patience to wait and the courage to keep moving. Habits shape destiny. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, it comes from what you do consistently. You can dream big, speak positively, and declare your goals, but if your daily habits don't align with what you're expecting, then your future will collapse under the weight of inconsistency. Your life right now is a reflection of the patterns you have practiced, not the promises you've heard. God has given every human the gift of routine, not to limit us, but to shape us. You don't become great by accident. You become great by repetition. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often found in the habits that no one sees, but everyone eventually experiences the results of. Let me ask you, what are you doing every day that is either building or breaking your future? Don't tell me your goals, show me your routine. Show me how you start your day, how you spend your time, how you manage what God has placed in your hands. Because habits are the architecture of destiny. You don't rise to the level of your desires, you fall to the level of your discipline. The Bible says in Luke 4:16 that Jesus went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day as was his custom. Even the Son of God had a custom, a habit, a pattern. He didn't just operate from spontaneous bursts of divine energy. He honored routine. He practiced what he preached. His consistency in prayer, in teaching, in withdrawing to quiet places, those were not events, they were patterns. What made him powerful publicly was what he did consistently privately. David didn't kill Goliath because he was lucky. He had habits of worship, habits of courage, habits of practicing with his sling in the fields where no one was watching. So when the giant showed up, he didn't panic. He activated what he had already prepared through repetition. The giant wasn't defeated that day in the valley. It was defeated long before in the discipline of David's daily life. Too many people are waiting for a breakthrough, but they are sowing nothing into their routine that prepares them for it. You want to be successful, but what do your habits say? Do you have a habit of procrastination, a habit of distraction, or a habit of preparation, of reading, of showing up early, of thinking ahead? You see, bad habits are like termites. They eat away at your potential quietly until one day the whole structure collapses. And good habits, they build brick by brick, slowly, until suddenly what you've been constructing in silence becomes visible to the world. But it never starts loud. It always starts small. Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the word begin." Every giant future begins with tiny daily choices. You can pray for change, but if you don't change your habits, you're asking God to do something you're not committed to living. You can fast and ask for favor, But if you don't structure your life with discipline, your favor will be wasted. God doesn't bless laziness. He blesses faithfulness. Your habits either reinforce your purpose or erode it. That's why the enemy doesn't have to destroy you. He just has to disrupt your patterns. He attacks your morning. He fills your time with distractions. He lures you into inconsistency. Because if he can sabotage your habits, he can delay your destiny. So I challenge you, what needs to change in your daily life? What are you doing today that your future self will thank you for? Because destiny is not decided in one moment. It's shaped every day, in secret, by the choices you make repeatedly. Desire must become decision. Wanting something is not enough. The world is full of people who want to be great, who wish for a better life, who hope for success, but very few cross the line from intention to action. Desire is the seed, but decision is the water. Without decision, desire dries up. Without commitment, potential remains buried. Everyone desires success, but desire alone doesn't produce results. It is the decision to act, to sacrifice, to endure, that separates dreamers from doers. You can have the fire in your heart, but until that fire translates into consistent choices, it remains just a flame with no impact. Desire is emotional, but decision is intentional. And only decisions build the future. The Bible shows us this in the life of Daniel. He was a young man in a foreign land, surrounded by pressure, distractions, and temptation. But Daniel 1:8 says, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself." That was not just a feeling, that was a decision. He made a preset commitment that determined his behavior no matter the pressure. That decision preserved his purpose and elevated him to power. Let me ask you, what have you decided about your life? Not what you feel, not what you dream, but what have you chosen, locked in, and committed to? Because life doesn't bend for desire, it responds to decision. You can desire to be disciplined, but until you decide to set the alarm, turn off the distractions, and show up to the work, nothing will shift. You can desire to fulfill your calling, but without the decision to walk away from comfort, fear, and compromise, you will remain stuck in potential. Desire is the beginning, but decision is the point of no return. Decision is what gives birth to habits, fuels discipline, and anchors consistency. Think of the prodigal son in Luke 15. It says that after he wasted everything and hit rock bottom, he came to himself. That's when desire turned into decision. He said, "I will arise and go to my father." That single decision changed his entire future. The moment he decided, grace met him. Restoration met him. Destiny resumed. There are some things God is waiting to release, but he's waiting on your decision. Not your passion, not your excitement, your decision. Because a decision turns invisible intentions into visible movement. It tells heaven and hell that you are serious. The enemy is not intimidated by your desire, he is threatened by your decision. Because once you decide, your actions begin to align, your habits begin to shift, your vision begins to focus. Think of a marriage. A couple may desire love, joy, and a lasting bond, but without the daily decision to commit, forgive, communicate, and serve, that marriage will die. It's the decision that sustains the desire. The same is true with your vision, your assignment, your success. What decisions are you making daily that reinforce what you say you want? Too many people live in the land of someday. Someday I'll get serious. Someday I'll write the book. Someday I'll start the business. Someday I'll commit to growth. But someday is not on the calendar until you decide nothing becomes real. So if you're tired of the cycle of wishing, wanting, waiting, it's time to decide. Decide that you will no longer live beneath your potential. Decide that excuses will no longer own your voice. Decide that the future God placed in you is worth every ounce of discipline, sacrifice, and courage it takes to reach it. Success demands daily sacrifice, not one-time effort, not occasional commitment, daily. That means every single day something must die so something greater can live. If you are not willing to sacrifice your comfort, your distractions, your excuses, your old mindset, then you are not ready for the weight of the success you say you want. We admire the finished product, but we rarely consider the private price. Every successful person you celebrate has a story of sacrifice, something they gave up to gain what they now have. You can't have a crown without a cross. You can't have glory without surrender. And you can't have real success without real sacrifice. The Bible says in Romans 12:1, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Not a dead sacrifice, a living one. That means sacrifice is not a moment. It's a lifestyle. Every day you wake up, you are on the altar. Every day you are choosing to kill what doesn't belong so that what does belong can rise up and take its place. Let me ask you this. What have you consistently sacrificed for the success you're praying for? Are you willing to sacrifice sleep to develop your gift? Are you willing to sacrifice popularity to preserve your integrity? Are you willing to sacrifice entertainment to make room for education, discipline, and preparation? Jesus said in Luke 9:23, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Notice the word daily. Sacrifice is not a one-time deal. It's a daily death to distractions, a daily choice to stay focused, a daily decision to move forward even when it costs you something. Your cross is not just suffering, it's surrender. Your cross is that place where you sacrifice what is easy so you can rise into what is eternal. Success is not built in crowds, it's built in the crucible of quiet decisions. When no one is watching, when your body is tired, when your mind wants to give in, that's where greatness is forged. Think of the athlete who gets up before sunrise to train while others sleep. Think of the student who studies while others scroll. Think of the leader who keeps showing up with excellence even when applause is absent. That's sacrifice. And that's where success is born. Abraham is another powerful example. God asked him to sacrifice his son Isaac, not because God delights in pain, but because God tests what you say you love. Sacrifice proves whether your vision is real or just talk. Abraham passed the test, and because of his willingness to surrender, God said, now I know. Genesis 22:12. The blessing followed the sacrifice. What is God waiting to release until you prove you're willing to let go? The truth is you can't have it all. You can't keep your comfort and chase your calling. You can't keep your pride and walk in purpose. You can't keep every relationship and still protect your future. Success will cost you. And if it hasn't cost you anything yet, you haven't stepped into the real thing. So don't just pray for success, prepare for the sacrifices that come with it. Because every level of elevation demands a deeper level of surrender. You don't climb by adding more. You climb by letting go. And what you let go of today determines what you can carry tomorrow. Success is not reserved for the lucky, the gifted, or the well-connected. It is the reward of those who choose discipline over emotion, consistency over convenience, habits over hype, decisions over desires, and sacrifice over ease. Your future is not waiting on a miracle. It's waiting on your movement. Force yourself to get it done, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. The vision God placed in you is too important to be delayed by feelings, too powerful to be held back by excuses, and too valuable to be wasted by inaction. So rise up, confront the resistance, push through the pressure, and press forward with faith. You already have everything you need. Now activate it. Remember, greatness is not found in the crowd, it's forged in the quiet place, where discipline, purpose, habit, decision, and sacrifice meet. Thank you for listening. May God give you strength to finish what you've started, wisdom to walk in purpose, and courage to keep moving even when it's hard. Good luck on your journey, and never stop pressing toward the mark.